The sky turned black at 3 in the afternoon. Maria Santos was walking home from work when the shadows fell across the street. She looked up and saw them. Ships. Thousands of ships. They covered the sun like a metal blanket stretched across the heavens. The air grew cold. Car alarms started going off everywhere. People stopped walking. They stood in the middle of the street and stared up at the impossible sight. Some took pictures with their phones. Others started crying. A few began praying in languages Maria did not know. The ships were huge. Each one was bigger than a city. They hung in the air without making any sound. No engines roaring, no wind from their passage. Just silence and shadow. Then the message came. Every screen on Earth lit up at the same time. Television sets in store windows, computer monitors in offices, phone screens in people's hands, even the big electronic billboard above the bank, all showed the same image. A creature that looked almost human but was not human at all. Its skin was pale blue, and its eyes were too large. When it spoke, the words came out in perfect English, but Maria could tell it was not the creature's real voice. Something was changing the sounds. "People of Earth," the creature said, "I am Ambassador Veltar of the Galactic Council. Your world has been selected for integration into our collective. You have 72 hours to surrender unconditionally." Maria felt her legs go weak. She sat down on the curb. Around her, other people were doing the same thing. An old man was shaking his head and muttering. A woman was hugging her children. Tight. The creature continued talking. "Do not be afraid. This process has been completed 847 times before. Your species will be preserved. Your culture will be studied. Your aggression will be removed through our pacification protocols." The word pacification made Maria's stomach turn cold. "We understand this news may cause distress," Veltar said. "This is normal. Fear of change is common among primitive species. However, resistance is pointless. Our fleet contains enough firepower to sterilize your planet 12 times over. We do not wish to use it." The camera moved to show other creatures standing behind Veltar. Some had scales, others had fur. One looked like it was made of living crystal. All of them stared at the camera with the same cold expression. "Your leaders will now be contacted directly," Veltar said. "They will negotiate the terms of your surrender. This message will repeat every hour until compliance is achieved. Do not attempt to flee your system. Do not attempt to fight. Accept your new place in the galaxy with dignity." The screens went black. For a moment, nobody moved. Then someone started screaming. Maria did not know who. Maybe it was her. At the United Nations building in New York, President Elizabeth Morrison sat in the emergency meeting room. The faces on the screens around her looked just as shocked as she felt. Prime ministers, presidents, and leaders from every nation on Earth. All of them asking the same question. What do we do? General Harrison, the head of Earth's defense forces, was the first to speak. "We need to see what we're dealing with. Our satellites are getting readings I've never seen before. These ships, they're not using any technology we understand." "How many are there?" asked the Prime Minister of Canada. "We stopped counting at 5,000, Harrison said. "They're positioned all around the planet. High orbit, low orbit, some sitting in the atmosphere itself. If they wanted to attack, we'd already be dead." President Morrison looked at the faces. On her screens, fear, confusion. Some were already talking about surrender terms. "We need more information," she said. "How long do we have?" 72 hours, said Harrison. "But honestly, ma'am, I don't think time matters. Our best weapons wouldn't even scratch the hull of their smallest ship." The president of Russia leaned forward. "Perhaps we should listen to what they're offering. They said other species have joined peacefully." "They also said pacification protocols," Morrison replied. "That doesn't sound peaceful to me." For 6 hours, they talked. Some wanted to fight, others wanted to negotiate. A few suggested hiding underground and hoping the aliens would go away. None of them had a real answer. Then Admiral Sarah Chen joined the call. Chen ran Earth's space program. She was quiet most of the time, but when she spoke, people listened. She had been in space longer than almost anyone else alive. "I've been looking at their ships," she said, "running scans, taking measurements. There's something you all need to know." Morrison felt a small hope in her chest. "What is it?" "They're not scanning us back," Chen said. "Not really. They did a quick pass when they arrived, but since then, nothing. They think they already know everything about us." "Is that good or bad?" asked the German chancellor. Chen was quiet for a long moment. "It means they're arrogant. They think we're helpless. They think we'll roll over and show our bellies like scared dogs." "Aren't we helpless?" asked someone. Morrison could not tell who. Chen smiled. It was not a nice smile. "No, we're not." Morrison felt something change in the room. The other leaders were looking at Chen with new attention. "What aren't you telling us?" Morrison asked. "We've been preparing for this day for 30 years, Chen said. "Ever since we first picked up alien signals from deep space, we knew they were out there. We knew they might come. And we've been getting ready." Harrison leaned forward. "Ready how?" "That's classified above your level, General," Chen said. "But I can tell you this. When those ships showed up today, they made a mistake. They thought they were dealing with the same humans who barely managed to reach their own moon 50 years ago. Chen stood up. In the background, Morrison could see people in military uniforms moving around with purpose. "They want our surrender?" Chen said. "Let's give them our answer instead." Morrison felt her heart start beating faster. "What kind of answer?" Chen walked to a wall display and pressed some buttons. The screen showed a view of space around Earth. The alien ships hung there like dark clouds, but as Morrison watched, tiny lights began appearing around them. Hundreds of lights, then thousands. "What am I looking at?" Morrison asked. "Every defensive platform we've built in secret for the last 3 decades, Chen said. "Every hidden base on the Moon and Mars. Every weapon system we hoped we'd never have to use. They're all coming online now." The lights were growing brighter. Morrison realized they were targeting systems, all pointed at the alien ships. "Admiral," Morrison said slowly, "are you telling me we actually have a chance?" Chen turned back to the camera. Her smile was definitely not nice now. "Ma'am, these aliens have been conquering peaceful species for centuries. They've forgotten what it's like to fight someone who fights back. They came here expecting sheep." Chen's eyes were hard as steel. "But humans aren't sheep. We're wolves. And it's time to remind the galaxy what that means." Morrison felt something she had not expected to feel that day. Hope. Dangerous, terrible hope. "Admiral Chen," she said, "you have full authorization to respond to this threat as you see fit." Chen nodded. "Thank you, ma'am. I suggest you all get to your bunkers. This is going to get loud." As the call ended, Morrison looked out her window, at the alien ships hanging in the sky. They looked so confident, so sure of their victory. They had no idea what was coming. Admiral Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the hidden lunar base called Dark Side Station. Through the reinforced windows, she could see Earth hanging in space like a blue marble. The alien ships surrounded it like hungry insects. "Status report," she said to her communications officer. "All defense platforms are online, Admiral. Luna Base, Mars Outpost, and the asteroid mining stations are ready. The orbital rings are charged and waiting for your order." Chen nodded. For 30 years, humanity had been building in secret. When the first alien signals were detected in 1995, a small group of world leaders had made a decision. They would prepare for the worst and hope for the best. The worst had arrived. "What about the fleet?" Chen asked. "All ships are in position," replied Commander Torres from his stealth cruiser hidden behind Europa. "The Council doesn't even know we're here." Chen smiled. The alien ships were massive and powerful, but they had made a critical mistake. They thought humans were still using chemical rockets and primitive nuclear weapons. They had not bothered to scan properly. If they had, they would have found the gravitational anomalies. They would have detected the energy signatures. They would have realized that humanity had been reverse engineering alien technology for decades. Admiral called out Lieutenant Hayes from the sensor station. The Council fleet is moving into final position. It looks like they're preparing for orbital bombardment. Chen looked at the tactical display. The alien ships were arranging themselves in a perfect formation around Earth. Textbook invasion strategy. They would demand surrender one more time, then begin destroying major cities to prove their point. They had done this 847 times before. They knew exactly how it would go. Time to teach them something new, Chen said. All stations, this is Admiral Chen. Execute Operation Lightning Strike. Across the solar system, weapons that had been hidden for 3 decades suddenly came to life. The first strike came from the asteroid belt. What the aliens thought were simple mining stations revealed their true purpose. Kinetic accelerators that had been disguised as ore processors fired streams of metal slugs at nearly the speed of light. The projectiles hit the Council's rear guard ships before the aliens even knew they were under attack. Ambassador Veltar was reviewing surrender terms when his flagship shuddered. Emergency alarms began screaming throughout the ship. "Report!" he shouted to his tactical officer. "We're under attack, sir. Multiple contacts firing from the outer system. 3 ships destroyed, 5 more damaged." Veltar's 4 arms gestured in confusion. "Impossible. The humans have no weapons capable of reaching us from that distance." "Sir, energy readings suggest these are kinetic accelerators with gravitational focusing systems. The projectiles are moving at 92% light speed." Veltar felt his stomach drop. Gravitational focusing was Council technology. Advanced Council technology. How could these primitives possibly have it? On Earth, the second phase began. Hidden bases on the moon that had been carefully camouflaged as research stations opened like flowers. Inside were electromagnetic pulse cannons powered by fusion reactors. The weapons fired invisible bursts of energy that washed over the alien, fleet like ocean waves. All across the Council formation, ships began going dark. Their shields flickered and died. Their weapons stopped charging. Their engines cut out. In seconds, half the fleet was drifting helplessly in space. "What's happening to our ships?" Veltar demanded. His engineering officer was frantically working at his console. "Massive electromagnetic interference, sir. Our systems are being overloaded. It's like someone built weapons specifically designed to counter our technology." That was exactly what had happened. For 30 years, human engineers had studied every piece of alien tech they could find: crashed probes, abandoned satellites, pieces of ships that had passed through the solar system. They had learned how Council systems worked, and then they had built weapons to destroy them. The third phase was the most shocking of all. Around Earth, space seemed to shimmer and bend. Then ships began appearing. Human ships, sleek, deadly vessels that used alien technology but were built with human ingenuity. They had been hiding in stealth fields so advanced that even Council sensors could not detect them. The HMS Retribution uncloaked directly above the Council flagship. Its captain, Maria Vasquez, had been training for this moment her entire adult life. "Target their command center," she ordered. "Antimatter torpedoes, full spread." The torpedoes streaked through space, trailing lines of pure destruction. When they hit Veltar's ship, entire sections simply ceased to exist. The massive alien vessel broke apart like a toy stepped on by a giant. Veltar found himself trapped in the emergency command center as his ship died around him. Through the static-filled communications, he could hear reports from across the fleet. Ships destroyed, weapons offline, crews in panic. "How is this possible?" he whispered to himself. His science officer, one of the few stations still working, looked up with fear in her large eyes. "Sir, I'm detecting over 200 human vessels. They're using technology equal to or superior to our own. Stealth systems, energy weapons, defensive shields. It's like they've been preparing for this exact battle." Veltar realized the horrible truth. The humans had not been caught by surprise. They had been waiting. For decades, they had been watching and learning and building. While the Council grew fat and lazy from easy conquests, the humans had been turning themselves into the perfect weapon to destroy them. Captain Torres led his Marine assault team through the corridors of a Council heavy cruiser. The aliens had tried to repel boarders, but human soldiers were something they had never faced before. Where other species fought with energy weapons at long range, humans got close. They used knives and explosives and their bare hands. They fought like animals. The Zephyrian warriors, feared across the galaxy for their skill in battle, lasted less than 10 minutes against Torres and his men. They were not used to enemies who fought to win instead of fighting for honor. Back on Earth, President Morrison watched the battle from her bunker. The displays showed alien ships burning across the sky like falling stars. Reports were coming in from every continent. The few Council troops that had managed to land were being destroyed by human forces that seemed to know exactly where they would be and what they would do. "How did we know?" she asked General Harrison. "How did we know exactly what they would try?" Harrison pulled up a classified file on his computer. "We've been intercepting their communications for 20 years, ma'am. We know their battle plans. We know their weaknesses. We've studied every species in their alliance. We know which ones are warriors and which ones are just bureaucrats with big guns." Morrison stared at the tactical display. The alien fleet was in full retreat, but human ships were pursuing them. Not to destroy them all, but to send a message. "Admiral Chen," she said into her communicator. "Status report." Chen's voice came back clear and strong. "Council fleet is broken, ma'am. 60% casualties on their side. We lost 12 ships and about 300 personnel. The remaining Council forces are fleeing beyond the orbit of Pluto." Morrison felt tears in her eyes, not from sadness, but from pride. "And the planet?" "Earth is secure, ma'am, but I recommend we don't stop here." "What do you mean?" Chen's voice was hard as steel. "They came to our home. They threatened our families. They wanted to remove our aggression and turn us into pets. I think it's time the galaxy learned what human aggression really looks like when we decide to use it." Morrison looked at the burning alien ships on her screen. The Council had expected to find sheep. Instead, they had awakened wolves. And now those wolves were hungry for justice. The battle for Earth was over. But the war for human freedom had just begun. Captain Marcus Torres crouched in the maintenance shaft of the Council command ship. His tactical suit was covered in alien blood, but none of it was his own. Behind him, his squad of 12 Marines moved through the cramped space like deadly. "Shadows! Target is 2 decks down," whispered Sergeant Kim through the comm system. "Intelligence says that's where they keep their war council." Torres nodded and checked his weapon. The rifle used Council technology, but was built by human hands. It fired rounds that could punch through alien armor like paper. More importantly, it was designed to work even when alien defensive systems tried to jam it. For the past 6 hours, Torres and his team had been fighting their way through the massive alien vessel. The Council crew had never faced boarding parties before. They did not know how to fight in close quarters. They did not know how to handle enemies who used the ship's own systems against them. The aliens fought like they were following a manual. Step 1, seal the corridors. Step 2, use energy weapons to keep enemies at a distance. Step 3, call for reinforcements from the security teams. But humans did not fight by manuals. They cut through the sealed doors with plasma torches. They used grenades to turn energy weapons into scrap metal. And when the security teams arrived, They found empty corridors filled with smoke and the bodies of their own people. Movement ahead, Kim whispered. Looks like a patrol. Torres peered through the grating. 6 alien soldiers were walking down the corridor below. They wore full battle armor and carried weapons that could melt steel. They looked confident, professional, deadly. They had no idea that 12 humans were hanging above their heads like hunting spiders. Torres made a hand signal. His team moved with perfect silence. The aliens never heard them coming. When the attack began, it lasted exactly 17 seconds. When it ended, the corridor was empty except for the smell of burned metal and the sound of Torres's team moving deeper into the ship. Meanwhile, on the surface of Earth, the real battle was just beginning. The Council had expected their ground assault to be simple: land troops in major cities, secure government buildings, wait for the local forces to surrender when they realized resistance was hopeless. Instead, every city had become a fortress. Colonel Sarah Mitchell commanded the defense of New York. From her command bunker beneath Manhattan, she watched as alien dropships tried to land in Central Park. They never made it to the ground. Hidden missile batteries rose from beneath the grass and fired guided rockets at the incoming ships. The aliens had shields, but human weapons had been designed specifically to overload those shields. The first wave of dropships exploded in the sky like fireworks. The second wave tried to land in the Hudson River. They found that humans had filled the water with automated mines that activated when they detected alien energy signatures. The explosions sent towers of water and metal into the air. The third wave actually made it to the ground. 200 Council soldiers in full battle gear landed on the streets of Manhattan and began advancing toward the United Nations building. They expected to face police with small weapons and maybe some military units with simple vehicles. Instead, they found that every window in every building contained a human with a rifle. Every corner hid a team with anti-armor weapons. Every sewer cover concealed a mine that would activate when stepped on by alien boots. The Council soldiers were used to fighting on open battlefields. They were used to enemies who stood up and fought face to face. They were not used to a species that turned every building into a fortress and every citizen into a soldier. Within 1 hour, the entire Council landing force was dead. The humans had lost 12 people. The aliens had lost 200. Reports like this were coming in from cities all around the world: London, Tokyo, Moscow, Sydney. Every time the Council tried to land troops, they walked into carefully prepared killing zones. Every time they tried to secure important buildings, they found that humans had already destroyed anything useful and turned the rest into traps. Back in space, Admiral Chen was coordinating the pursuit of the fleeing Council fleet. Human ships that had been hidden throughout the solar system were now hunting alien vessels like wolves chasing deer. "Report from Captain Rodriguez," her communications officer called out. "His squadron has caught 3 Council frigates trying to escape. Past Mars, they're requesting permission to board and capture." Chen considered this. Dead aliens could not carry warnings back to their home worlds, but captured aliens could provide information about Council technology and battle plans. "Permission granted," she said. "Tell Rodriguez to take prisoners if possible, but if they resist, send them to whatever gods they worship." The HMS Conquistador and her escort ships surrounded the fleeing alien vessels. Captain Rodriguez opened communications with the enemy ships. "Council vessels, this is Captain Eduardo Rodriguez of the Human Space Navy. You are ordered to surrender immediately. Cut your engines and prepare to be boarded." The reply came back in heavily accented English. "Human ship, you do not understand what you are doing. The Council has ruled the galaxy for 1,000 years. We have weapons that can crack planets, fleets that number in the millions. You cannot fight us all." Rodriguez smiled. It was the same smile his ancestor had worn when facing the Aztec Empire 500 years earlier. "You're probably right," he said. "We can't fight you all. But we don't have to. We just have to fight you, right here, Right now, and you're going to lose. The alien ships tried to run. Human ships were faster. The aliens tried to fight. Human weapons were stronger. In the end, the Council frigates were captured with their crews intact. The prisoners would be very useful for learning about alien technology and tactics. Dr. Elena Vasquez was already studying the first captured aliens on Luna Base. As Earth's chief expert on alien biology, she had been preparing for this moment for 15 years. What she found shocked her. "These creatures are not warriors," she reported to Admiral Chen. "Their muscle density is 40% lower than humans. Their reflexes are 60% slower. Their brain chemistry shows no signs of the aggression hormones we see in human soldiers." Chen frowned at the medical report. "Then how have they conquered 847 worlds?" "By fighting species that are even more peaceful than they are," Vasquez replied. "Look at these genetic scans. Every species in the Council shows signs of selective breeding for passive behavior. They've been domesticated, Admiral, like cattle." Chen felt a chill run down her spine. "What about their technology? Their weapons?" "Impressive, but static," Vasquez said. "These designs haven't changed in centuries. They build weapons, but they don't really understand war. They're like children playing with their grandfather's sword collection." The implications were terrifying. The galaxy was full of advanced civilizations, but none of them remembered how to fight. They had grown soft and weak from centuries of easy victory over helpless opponents. Until now. Until they met humans. "Doctor," Chen said slowly, "what happens when word of this battle reaches the rest of the galaxy?" Vasquez looked at the alien. Bodies on her examination tables. Creatures that had ruled the stars for 1,000 years, now lying dead because they had forgotten the most basic lesson of nature. There is always a bigger predator. "I think," she said, "the galaxy is about to remember what fear feels like." In the depths of space, the few surviving Council ships limped toward the edge of the solar system. Ambassador Veltar, wounded but alive, sat in the emergency command center of his damaged vessel. Around him, his staff worked frantically to restore communications. "Sir," his communications officer reported, "we're receiving messages from the home fleets. They want to know why we haven't reported our victory yet." Veltar closed his large eyes and tried not to think about the human ships that were still pursuing them. Fast, deadly vessels crewed by beings that fought like the demons from ancient mythology. "Tell them," he said quietly, "that we have encountered something unexpected. Tell them we need to revise our assessment of the human threat level." "What should I list as the new threat level, sir?" Veltar looked out the viewport at the human ships following them. Beautiful. Terrible machines built by a species that had turned warfare into an art form, a species that did not just fight to win, but fought to make sure their enemies could never threaten them again. "Maximum," he whispered. "List them as maximum threat, and recommend that no Council ship enter their system again without a fleet of 10,000 vessels." His officer's hands shook as he typed the message. They both knew the truth. Even 10,000 ships might not be enough. The humans had been preparing for this battle for 30 years. How long would they prepare for the next one? In the distance, Earth hung in space like a blue jewel, but now it looked different to Veltar. Not like a prize to be conquered, but like the den of a sleeping dragon that had finally awakened, and that dragon was very, very angry. The war room beneath the Pentagon buzzed with activity. Screens covered every wall, showing the position of human and alien forces throughout the solar system. General Harrison stood at the center of it all, coordinating the largest military operation in human history. "Sir," called out Colonel Davis from the intelligence station, "we're intercepting panic communications from the Council fleet. It looks like their member species are starting to abandon the Alliance." Harrison walked over to read the translated messages. What he saw made him smile grimly. Fear, confusion, accusations between different alien species about who was responsible for the disaster. The Zephyrians are pulling their ships back to defensive positions around their home fleet, Davis continued. The Korthaks are demanding explanations from Council leadership. 3 other species have already broken off and are heading for the edge of the system. This was exactly what human strategists had hoped for. The Council was not a unified military force. It was a collection of different species held together by centuries of easy victories. When faced with real resistance, old rivalries and fears were surfacing. "What about the species that are still fighting?" Harrison asked. Davis pulled up another screen. "The Hegemony Core fleets are regrouping beyond Jupiter, about 40 ships still trying to maintain formation. But sir, look at this." The screen showed energy readings from the alien vessels. Their shield generators were operating at barely 60% capacity. Their weapon systems were cycling slowly, like machinery that was overheating. Most telling of all, their engines were showing signs of stress fractures. "They're falling apart," Harrison realized. "Their technology is failing." "It's more than that, sir," said Dr. Martinez from the Technical Analysis Station. "We've been studying the captured alien equipment. These systems were never designed for extended combat. They're built for short, overwhelming attacks against helpless opponents. When forced to fight for hours against an equal enemy, they start breaking down." Harrison felt a surge of satisfaction. For 30 years, human engineers had built every weapon and ship with one principle in mind. It had to work when everything else was going wrong. Human technology was designed to function in the chaos of real battle. Alien technology was designed to look impressive while conquering defenseless worlds. "Sir," called out the communications officer. "Admiral Chen is requesting permission to begin Phase 2. Harrison looked at the tactical display. The Council forces were scattered and demoralized. Half their fleet was destroyed or disabled. The survivors were trying to retreat in disorder. It was time to make sure they understood the lesson completely. "Permission granted," Harrison said. "Tell the Admiral to show them what humans do to enemies who threaten their families." In space above Europa, Admiral Chen received the authorization and smiled. Around her, the hidden human fleet began moving into attack formation. Ships that had been disguised as ice mining platforms revealed their true nature. Weapons that had been hidden inside asteroid shells came online. Battle stations that had been built into the moons of Jupiter activated their targeting systems. "All units," Chen broadcast to her fleet, "commence Operation Sledgehammer." The human attack came from every direction at once. The surviving Council ships found themselves surrounded by enemies they had not even known existed. Kinetic weapons fired from the asteroid belt. Energy beams lashed out from the moons of Jupiter. Stealth ships appeared from nowhere and fired antimatter torpedoes at point-blank range. But the most devastating attack came from something the aliens had not expected at all. "Admiral," reported Commander Singh from the research vessel Newton. "Viral countermeasures are ready for deployment." 2 hours earlier, Council forces had tried to use biological weapons against Earth's cities. They had released engineered viruses designed to make humans sick and weak, hoping to force a surrender. It was a standard Council tactic that had worked on dozens of other worlds. But humans were not like other species. Within minutes of detecting the alien viruses, human scientists had begun developing countermeasures. Not just cures, but weapons of their own. "Deploy the packages," Chen ordered. Across the battlefield, human ships fired special missiles at the alien vessels. When the missiles hit, they did not explode. Instead, they released clouds of microscopic machines that began eating through alien hull materials. The nanobots had been programmed to target the specific alloys and compounds used in Council ship construction. Within minutes, alien vessels began developing holes in their armor. Their life support systems failed. Their computer networks crashed as the nanobots found their way into the electronic systems. The aliens had brought biological warfare to a species that had been practicing it for millions of years. Every virus that had ever tried to kill a human had made humanity stronger and smarter about fighting microscopic enemies. The Council's bioweapons were primitive compared to what human immune systems dealt with every day. "Sir," reported the alien tactical officer to what remained of the Council command staff, "our ships are being destroyed by some kind of mechanical plague. The human devices are literally eating our vessels." Admiral Zontar of the Hegemony stared at the reports in horror. In 1 hour, his species had lost more ships than in the previous 1,000 years of warfare. The humans were not just defeating them, they were humiliating them. "How is this possible?" he demanded. "We have the most advanced technology in the galaxy." His science officer looked up from his instruments with fear in his multifaceted eyes. "Sir, I don't think we do anymore. These humans, they've taken our technology and improved it, made it better, turned it into things we never imagined." On the bridge of the HMS Revenge, Captain Patricia Wong was coordinating the final assault on the Council command ship. Her vessel had been built inside a captured alien hull, using human engineering principles but alien materials. The result was a ship that looked like Council technology but fought like something from humanity's worst nightmares. "Target their bridge," she ordered. "Plasma cannons, maximum yield." The weapons fired, sending streams of superheated matter across space. The alien ship's shields held for exactly 3 seconds before collapsing. The plasma bolts punched through, the hull like bullets through paper, vaporizing entire sections of the massive vessel. "Direct hit," reported her weapons officer. "Their command center is gone." Wong nodded with satisfaction. Around her, other human ships were finishing off the last Council vessels. In 6 hours, a fleet that had conquered hundreds of worlds had been reduced to burning debris. "Captain," called out her communications officer, "we're receiving a transmission from one of the surviving alien ships. They're requesting terms for surrender." Wong considered this. The smart thing would be to accept the surrender and interrogate the prisoners. But Wong had seen the reports from Earth. She had read about the biological weapons and the threats to pacify human aggression. She had heard the recording of Ambassador Veltar explaining how humans would be turned into pets. "Tell them," she said coldly, "that humans don't accept surrenders from child killers. Tell them to run back to whatever hole they crawled out of and warn the rest of the galaxy. Earth is off limits, permanently." The alien ship's engines lit up as it fled toward the edge of the solar system. Behind it, the wreckage of the Council fleet drifted in space like a monument to their arrogance. On Earth, President Morrison stood on the observation deck of the rebuilt Pentagon. Through the reinforced windows, she could see the lights of human ships patrolling the skies. In the distance, alien vessels burned as they fell through the atmosphere like falling stars. "Status report," she said to General Harrison. "Total victory, ma'am," Harrison replied. "Council forces have been eliminated or driven from the system. Casualty reports are coming in now." Morrison braced herself. "How bad?" "Remarkably light, ma'am. We lost about 400 military personnel across all services. Civilian casualties are under 50, mostly from the initial panic when the fleet arrived." Morrison stared at him in shock. 400 against a force that conquered 847 worlds? "Yes, ma'am. It turns out that conquering helpless civilizations doesn't prepare you for fighting an enemy that's been preparing for war for 30 years. Morrison looked up at the night sky. Somewhere out there, the survivors of the Council fleet were racing home with news of their defeat. Soon, the entire galaxy would know that humans could not be conquered, that Earth was protected by forces that made the Council's weapons look like toys. "What happens now?" she asked. Harrison pulled up a classified document on his tablet. "Admiral, Chen is recommending that we don't wait for them to come back with a bigger fleet. She wants to take the fight to them. Show the galaxy what happens when someone threatens human civilians." Morrison felt a chill run down her spine. For 1,000 years, the Council had been the apex predator of the galaxy. They had grown lazy and weak from easy victories. Now they had awakened something that had been shaped by millions of years of survival on a world where everything tried to kill everything else. They had wanted to remove human aggression. Instead, they had given humanity a reason to use all of it. "General," Morrison said quietly, "prepare for Phase 3, and may God help anyone who gets in our way." In the depths of space, the few surviving Council ships limped toward home. Behind them, human vessels followed at a distance, not attacking but making sure the message was clear. The hunters had become the hunted. The predators had found a bigger predator. And that predator was just getting started. 6 months after the failed invasion of Earth, the galaxy was a very different place. Admiral Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the HMS Retribution as it dropped out of hyperspace near the hegemony home world. Around her ship, a fleet of 200 human vessels materialized from the void. Each one was built with technology that combined the best of human engineering with captured alien systems. "Status report," Chen ordered. "All ships in formation, Admiral," replied Commander Torres. "Stealth. Fields are holding. Local defense forces haven't detected us yet." Chen nodded as she studied the tactical display. The hegemony had been one of the founding members of the Council. Their home system contained 12 worlds and over 50 billion inhabitants. 6 months ago, they had been part of a force that came to Earth demanding humanity's surrender. Today, they were about to learn what surrender really meant. "Open a channel to the planetary defense grid," Chen ordered. The main screen flickered and showed a hegemony admiral surrounded by his command staff. The alien's large eyes went wide when he saw Chen's face. Fear replaced confusion as he recognized the human uniform. "This is Admiral Chen of the Human Colonial Navy," she said in a calm, professional voice. "Your government participated in an unprovoked attack on the human homeworld 6 months ago. We are here to discuss terms." The alien. Admiral's 4 arms gestured frantically. "Admiral Chen, please, there has been a misunderstanding. The hegemony condemns the actions of the Council. We have already withdrawn from the alliance. We seek only peace with humanity." Chen smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "Peace is what my people sought 6 months ago. Your Council chose war instead. Now you will live with the consequences." On the planet below, emergency sirens began wailing in every city. The hegemony defense fleet, what was left of it after the disaster at Earth, scrambled to intercept the human ships. 200 vessels against 30 human ships. The defenders thought they had a chance. They were wrong. The battle lasted exactly 47 minutes. Human ships moved through the alien formation like wolves through a flock of sheep. Advanced. Stealth technology made them nearly impossible to target. Adaptive shielding turned alien weapons into light shows. And when the humans fired back, entire enemy ships simply vanished in bursts of antimatter fire. When it was over, the hegemony defense fleet was gone. The orbital platforms were destroyed. The planetary shields had been shut down by human computer. Viruses that were more advanced than anything the aliens could stop. "Planetary defenses eliminated," reported Commander Singh. "The world is defenseless, Admiral." Chen looked at the beautiful blue-green planet turning slowly below her ships. Billions of innocent civilians lived down there. Families, children. People who had never voted to attack Earth and probably did not even know the war had happened. It would be easy to crack the planet open. To turn those billions of lives into cosmic dust, to send a message to the galaxy written in fire and death. But that was not the human way. Humans were predators, but they were not monsters. "Begin Phase 2, Chen ordered, "across the planet." Every communication system suddenly activated. Television screens, computer networks, personal devices, public address systems, all of them showed the same image. Admiral Chen sitting calmly on her bridge. "People of the hegemony," she began. "I am Admiral Sarah Chen of the Human Colonial Navy. 6 months ago, your government joined with others to attack my home world. They came to our system demanding surrender. They threatened to pacify our species and remove our independence. On the planet below, billions of beings stopped what they were doing to listen. We offered them peace, Chen continued. They chose war. Now they will learn what war with humanity really means. The image changed to show recordings from the battle at Earth. Alien ships burning in space. Council forces being hunted down and destroyed by human weapons. The complete and total defeat of a force that had conquered hundreds of worlds. Your leaders told you that humans were primitive, weak, helpless. Chen's voice was cold as winter. They were wrong. We are not primitive. We are not weak, and we are definitely not helpless. The recording showed human ships pursuing the fleeing Council fleet. It showed alien vessels being boarded and captured. It showed prisoners being taken for interrogation and study. But unlike your council, humanity does not make war on innocent civilians, Chen said. We are here to deliver a message, not to commit genocide. The image returned to Chen's face. Behind her, the crew of her ship worked with calm efficiency. These were not conquerors drunk on victory. They were professionals doing a necessary job. Your government has been dissolved, Chen announced. Your military forces have been eliminated. Your orbital infrastructure has been destroyed. But your people will live. Your cities will stand. Your children will grow up. On the planet, alien families hugged each other with relief and terror. However, Chen continued, there will be conditions. First, you will never again support any action against human interests. Second, you will provide full intelligence about Council technology and military capabilities. Third, you will accept human oversight of your government until we are satisfied that you pose no future threat. The terms were harsh, but not impossible. Other species had faced much worse from the Council itself when they were conquered. Finally, Chen said, you will spread word throughout the galaxy about what happens to civilizations that threaten humanity. We did not seek this war, but we will finish it. Any species that attacks human worlds or human civilians will face the same choice you face today: surrender or extinction. The transmission ended. For a moment, the planet was silent. Then, from the capital city, came a transmission. The hegemony prime minister, his voice shaking with fear, formally surrendered on behalf of his entire species. Over the next 3 months, the pattern repeated across the galaxy. Human fleets appeared at Council worlds without warning. Ancient civilizations that had ruled the stars for millennia found themselves helpless before weapons and tactics they could not understand or counter. The Zephyrians, masters of energy, weapons, watched their entire fleet destroyed by human ships that turned their own technology against them. The Korthax, feared warriors of the galaxy, discovered that their martial arts were useless against enemies who fought like demons. Each conquest was swift, brutal, and precisely executed. Human forces eliminated military targets with surgical precision while leaving civilian populations untouched. The message was always the same. We are not your enemies unless you make us your enemies. But if you do, we will be the last enemies you ever face. Dr. Elena Vasquez studied the reports from each battle in her laboratory on Luna Base. As Earth's chief expert on alien biology, she had become fascinated by what the war was revealing about galactic civilization. "Admiral," she said during her briefing to Chen, "I've been analyzing genetic samples from all the species we've encountered. The pattern is consistent across every one of them." Chen looked at the data on Vasquez's screen. Charts showing hormone levels, brain chemistry, genetic markers. All of it pointed to the same conclusion. "They've been domesticated," Vasquez continued. "Every species in the Council shows signs of selective breeding for passive behavior. Aggression has been bred out of them over thousands of years." "Bred by whom?" Chen asked. "By themselves," Vasquez replied. "Look at their history. For 10,000 years, These civilizations have been selecting for peaceful, cooperative individuals. They've eliminated genetic lines that produce warriors or leaders or anyone who might challenge authority. Chen felt a chill as she understood the implications. They've turned themselves into sheep. Exactly. And for thousands of years, it worked. They had no natural predators in space, no challenges that required violence or aggression, so they bred those traits out of their populations. Vasquez pulled up another chart. But humans evolved differently. We come from a world where everything tried to kill us. We had to fight for every scrap of food, every piece of territory, every chance to survive. We're what these species would have been if they had never forgotten how to be dangerous. Chen looked out the window at Earth hanging in space below. A blue world that had produced the most dangerous predator the galaxy had ever seen. Not because humans were evil, but because they were exactly what evolution had designed them to be. "What happens now?" Chen asked. Vasquez smiled, but it was a sad smile. "Now the galaxy learns to live with wolves again, whether they like it or not." 1 year after the failed invasion, President Morrison stood before the United Nations General Assembly. Behind her, a massive display showed a map of local space. Red dots marked human colonies spreading outward from Earth like spores from a dandelion. "The Interstellar Colonial Initiative has established 47 new human settlements in the past 12 months, she announced. Each one is protected by defensive systems that make our home defenses look primitive by comparison. The audience, which now included representatives from dozens of alien species, listened in respectful silence. These were not conquered peoples, but allies. Species that had chosen to align themselves with humanity rather than face the alternative. "But we have not forgotten why we began this expansion," Morrison continued. 6 months ago, the Council came to our world demanding our surrender. They wanted to remove our aggression, our independence, our right to determine our own future. The alien ambassadors shifted uncomfortably in their seats. They had all seen the recordings of what happened to species that opposed humanity. "They came expecting to find sheep," Morrison said. "Instead, they found wolves. And now those wolves are loose in the galaxy." She paused and looked directly at the camera that was broadcasting her words across known space. "Let this be a lesson to any civilization that might be tempted to repeat the Council's mistake. Humanity sought only peace and the right to exist as a free species. We offered friendship to all who would accept it. But when others chose war, we showed them what war with humanity truly means." Behind her, the display changed to show images from the recent campaigns, alien fleets burning in space, council worlds under human occupation, former predator species kneeling before human admirals and begging for mercy. "We are not conquerors by choice," Morrison said, "but we are survivors by nature. Any species that threatens human civilians, human worlds, or human freedom will learn why we are the apex predator of this galaxy." The transmission ended, but the message echoed across the stars. In 1,000 worlds, in 1 billion cities, intelligent beings looked up at the night sky with new understanding. The age of easy conquest was over. The galaxy had a new predator, and it was hungry. But for those willing to live in peace, humanity offered something the Council never had: genuine friendship, trade agreements, technology sharing, mutual defense, pacts. The strong protecting the weak, not because they had to, but because they chose to. Admiral Chen stood on the observation deck of her flagship as it orbited a new human colony world. In the distance, alien ships worked alongside human vessels, building the infrastructure for a truly interstellar civilization. "Status report," she said to her aide. "All colonies report green status, Admiral. The hegemony has delivered the latest intelligence on Council remnant forces. 3 more species have applied for membership in the Human Protection Alliance." Chen nodded. The galaxy was learning to adapt to its new reality. Some species fought and were crushed. Others submitted and were protected. A few chose to become genuine partners and were welcomed as equals. "What about the old council leadership?" Chen asked. "Still missing, Admiral. Intelligence believes they've fled to the far edge of the galaxy, but long-range scouts are tracking them." Chen smiled. "They could run to the edge of the universe if they wanted. It would not matter. Humanity had time and patience and a very long memory. The Council had demanded Earth's surrender. They had come expecting silence and submission. Instead, they had awakened the flame of human determination. And that flame would burn across the stars until every being in the galaxy understood the same simple truth. Humanity was done being afraid. From now on, everyone else could be afraid of them.